Thank you, Florence. How many of us know how long I have been in full fellowship? Pretty much no one. How many of us know there is such a thing as full fellowship? There are several. So, fellowship with our Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association and with our Unitarian Universalist Association is sort of good standing. It means you've met the minimum standards that they've set for what good ministry looks like, and you've accomplished all the tasks set before you. And you've had several years of apprenticeship, shall we call it, in preliminary fellowship. 3 renewals, 3 times of evaluation have to happen, 3 successful times of evaluation have to happen before a minister is granted full fellowship with our UUA. The minimum time, therefore, to get from preliminary fellowship to full fellowship is 3 years. It took me longer than 3 years. And it made me very sad for a while about that. When I was finally granted full fellowship and walked across the stage at a General Assembly, part of me was filled with regret and sorrow that my colleagues had gotten there quicker, had gotten there in the correct amount of time. The fact that it took me longer than 3 years to achieve full fellowship has never prevented me from getting a job or being called to a pulpit. It's never prevented me from officiating a wedding or participating in a memorial service. No parents have ever asked me before dedicating their baby, "How long did it take you to get full fellowship?" I think actually it's made me a better mentor to those whom I am mentoring through their preliminary fellowship, because when they get concerned and anxious, I can tell them my story and we can all breathe deeply and relax together, and maybe not beat themselves up as I was doing. Similarly, I was talking with a friend recently. Now, this is a person who's granted me the right to tell this story. They are not a member of this congregation. They don't even live in South Bend. We were talking about some of our experiences in therapy, and this person said that they had been going through some stuff recently, the last few months, and they got through it. They handled a difficult situation pretty well, and as they were telling their therapist about it, they became sad and frustrated. That yes, they had come through this. They had done good work. They had made some evolutionary progress, but it took them longer than it seemed it took others. They said, "I've been in therapy for more than 10 years and I'm still wrestling with big issues." Yeah, I've made progress, but my achievements only add up to where my friends were years ago. I'm pathetic, they said. Their therapist said, "You are not pathetic. Please celebrate your very real accomplishment. It's helpful to compare ourselves only with ourselves and not others. You don't know what those others are going through. They have their own tragedies with which they are wrestling." And my friend took all that in and recognized the truth of it and felt a little better. And that's why they were talking to me about it, and I commiserated with them. I too have had sort of that sense of, I've been working on this so long and I still make mistakes. It still feels like I should have progressed more. We sort of laughed together and noticed that we had heard the same thing from others of our friends. And since that conversation, I've been noticing in other places too. I've heard someone say something along the lines of, I've been parenting for a long time and I'm still making mistakes. I've been sober for 20 years and it's a daily effort, one day at a time. I've been on this planet for half a century and I still get frustrated by minor inconveniences. I thought by the time I was 30, I'd have figured these things out. How many of us can relate to one or more of these statements, right? It seems to be a human thing, and it's not just the conversation about half full or half empty. Okay. Well, still, quarter full or three-quarter empty there. It's more about working hard to get some liquid in the glass at all, and then looking up and seeing it isn't as full as we had hoped it would be, and feeling, it's great if we can experience some pride in the very real work that we have done. And sometimes it's just easy to feel disappointed or even defeated by the fact that it's not as much as we had hoped for. And it's even easier to have this experience when you're beset by other issues, when there's things at work, when your kids or your parents are having problems, when that idiot cut you off on the way to wherever you were going. It's easy to just be defeated by our circumstance and to want more. So I want to unpack some of those common human responses to this and help us identify and let go of the less helpful ones and celebrate together the progress that we are making in this world. Now, as my therapist always tells me, you are right to have the feelings you are having. You're right to have them because you are having them. They are real. Our emotions are at least somewhat helpful because they do offer data to help us learn and grow and evolve. So yes, it is important to celebrate each step along the way. I invite the congregation to say, I celebrate. And think about what it is, something in your life, something small, something large, that you deserve credit for. And say again, I celebrate. Let us practice that again and again in our lives going forward. And at the same time, we should honor our scars. I talked in the service earlier about scars forever changing us, making us different than we had been, different perhaps than we wanted to be. But different is not bad. Different is different. Hirschfield talks about proud flesh in the poem that we heard Florence read. Flesh that comes back stronger than the flesh that was there before. It's often talked about bones that have been broken come back and are stronger in the broken places. Let us honor our scars for the stories they tell and the way they demonstrate that we are stronger than sometimes we know. When I'm looking at a glass and deciding how much of it is, whether it's full or empty, and whether it's as full as I want it to be, I'm aware of some impatience in my life. Let us try to honor the process. It often takes as long as it takes. My impatience won't make it actually come any faster. And sometimes the next step in the process is to rest and take a break and allow things to take their time. That is also worthy of respect and appreciation and not really celebrated in this culture, which is why I bring it forward today. A big piece of this, I think, is our tendency to perfectionism. Anybody else have some perfectionistic tendencies? Anything less than complete and total victory is a complete failure. This is wrong. I wish to take that out of our brains, out of my mouth. I reject that. I make fun of it all the time, and I still find it inside of me. There's this perfectionism, this want to be exactly the way it should be, and if it's not, that I'm bad and wrong, or the person who's participating with it is bad and wrong, and I wish it were not so. In particular, perfectionism shows up these days in cancel culture. How many of us rooted for the Chiefs, at least partly because that way people would be angry about Taylor Swift? Maybe it was just me. It's ridiculous that there's also misogyny and all these other things tied up in this particular thing, right? This kind of perfectionism and moral purity, must be 100% with us. We must use all the same language, and we must pile on those who we deem unacceptable or risk becoming unacceptable ourselves from all varieties of political and moral persuasions. Now, I do want there to be consequence culture. I want to learn and grow, but if I just make an honest mistake and I'm willing to learn from it, I want my friends to help me learn, not tisk and shun me. And I think if we all did that, the culture would learn and grow and become better as well. I just want us to be patient with ourselves and with each other, to treat each other and ourselves with kindness. Let us honor our scars and celebrate each step along our journeys and be kind in the process. And then if you open the file that says life circumstances that work as sermon stories, whether you are looking for them or not, we have been lucky to have Pat Davis as our office manager for this congregation for the last few years. Pat wants to retire. Pat has wanted to retire, but has been staying on to help us find and train a new office manager. We've gone through a process. We thought we found the ideal candidate, but then that person had some life things happen to them and cannot now accept our offer. It is easy for me to feel like as a supervisor, and perhaps it's easy for the congregation to feel as a congregation, that we went from a potentially full glass of sparkling water to another glass half empty situation. And reminding ourselves of the things I've been talking about here, let us honor our disappointment and then also celebrate the things we do have. And what we do have is we still have Pat for a while. As she transitions out of the main part of the thing, she is still willing to help support and train the new person whenever we hire someone. I want to celebrate that we have an opportunity to try some different approaches. We've been doing things sort of the same way for a while. Maybe there are some things we can do that will make it better and easier, and we'll find out. One of the things I have to celebrate is that Dr. Louise has graciously accepted to step in, maybe use some of her technical skills, maybe some of her marketing expertise to streamline some of the things that neither Pat nor I had time to do before. Dr. Louise, as of this moment, is a temporary employee. We are still committed to finding a new office manager from outside the congregation. That may change. That's one of the things in transition. There's going to be some confusion. It may take longer to do some things. Some things will get lost in the struggle. Please be patient and kind with each other, and especially with Dr. Louise as we move through this. Our office manager glass is half full. Let us honor all of our feelings about that, and especially let us celebrate our office manager transition and all of the half-full situations in our lives. So may we be. And so, having heard about some of the cool work we're going to be doing, holding our representatives accountable and learning and growing in increasing our power with other congregations to make this community more emblematic of the values that we hold dear. That comes from volunteer effort, that comes from time, that comes from expertise. We also need cash money as part of making things work in the world. If you are online, there's a